Right, the clock in the town hall's ticked over to 6:30. So hello, good evening and welcome to Coach and I'm the interviewer, David Frost. Welcome to tonight's Opium Scrutiny meeting. This being live streamed, so if you do speak, could you speak clearly into the microphones please? And we do have some public speakers which we'll come to, and I think they've all been briefed. There's a specific seat and you push the mode or purple button to speak. But we'll start with the agenda item number 1, with your apologies and name substitutes, please.
Through you, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Kane, Councillor Baker as name substitute, Councillor Akbar, Councillor Court as name substitute, and Councillor Khan with Councillor Harvey as name substitute. We've also received apologies from Councillor Rosser.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2.
Councillor Prosser, he said to me, wouldn't be coming tonight.
You just said that.
Oh, you should, sorry, obviously.
Agenda item number 2 is declarations of interest and party whip. No. Thank you. Agenda item number 3 are the minutes of the previous meeting of the Opium Scrutiny meeting held on the 5th of September.
Move them, Chair.
I need a seconder. And seconded. It's on pages 1 through to 10. All those in favour, would you please indicate? Any against? Carried with no votes against. I'll sign those at the end of the meeting. The next agenda item is agenda item number 4, which is public speaking. We have 8 public speakers. It's a mixture of public speakers speaking here tonight from the chair, indicated over there, and statements which were read out by the Vicky Clerk, Joe Gresham, that was submitted earlier on in the week. It's 3 minutes maximum per speaker. I have extended it slightly if they all take their 3 minutes. Of course, some may not take the full 3 minutes, so it could end up 15 minutes long, it could end up slightly longer, and using my discretion, I've used it to allow all 8 that registered to have their 3 minutes. So I think there's been an order of preference on the way they were submitted. The first one is Mr. Rowbury, who is here in the chamber. If you'd like to come forward, sit in the chair, push the button, and then we'll start our 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Right, I think I better start by saying I'm showing no party politics at all, but my point is all about Redditch Library. I don't think the Tory councillors were elected to demolish the library. According to my view on the internet the other day, was Redditch has got a population of 86,000 people. Now cut that down to houses, I make that within reason about 30,000 houses. Now according to my calculations, before the council has got actual permission to demolish the library and replace it with restaurants that probably will not work, you need full permission from at least 15,001 houses. If you don't stick to that, you are letting down the people of Redditch. I could go further, but I don't think I will. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Gotta get up.
It's only easy bit, get to the hard bit.
That's worse.
Thank you, Mr. Rotary. The second person to register was a Kate Stanton, and that's a written statement which will be read out by Joe Gresham now.
I have followed the proposals for the demolition and relocation of Redditch Library closely. It's a subject from my heart, both as a library customer and as an ex-member of library staff who spent the majority of my 14 years with Worcestershire Libraries based at Redditch Library. My time there spanned 2 recent extensive and expensive refurbishments, the first a full building renovation and update in 2010, and more recently the works in 2017 to prepare the co-location of the DWP into the building. Having seen these improvements firsthand and also having worked at other libraries who have co-located services within the library building, for example Redditch Library, or library services that have moved into buildings housing multiple services such as Bromsgrove and Stourport libraries, I have seen how successful this model can be, when done in the right way and with the needs of the customer at the centre of decision making. This is not the case with the proposed for Redditch Library, as mentioned above. The library building has twice been upgraded in recent years. It was originally purpose-built as a library. It is centrally located at the top of the hill right next to the Kingfisher Centre. It's already delivering as a library, consistently one of the best performing in the county. During my time working at Redditch Library, it was not an uncommon occurrence for members of the public to come in and to the library to ask where the town hall was. Located down the hill and tucked off to the side, it's far from the landmark Redditch Library currently is. It was not also uncommon for people to say they didn't want to go all the way down the hill. For customers with mobility issues, this added distance could be a real barrier for them to be able to access services and support. The original reason given for demolition was the creation of a new public square that would also open up access to the Kingfisher shopping centre. I now see that the current suggestion is to spend 4.2 million to knock down the library building to replace it with another building, not considering the fact that in excess of 5 million would also need to be spent on relocating the library to the town hall. This seems a colossal waste of public money at a time when so many are struggling financially. On the subject of the budget, the figure of 4.2 million for demolition was quoted some time ago, and to the best of my knowledge has not been updated to reflect the current financial landscape. Costs are going up across the board, and I don't believe that this figure is still accurate. For the reasons listed above, I object to the proposals. The existing library is not ideally situated, but already delivering the high levels of service that Redditch residents deserve. As well as being a statutory service, for many, the library is an essential service, especially for those most vulnerable members of our community. What guarantees are in place that the proposed move will build on this to ensure, as a bare minimum, that this will be maintained? And the costs inevitably spiral. What cuts and downgrades to the service will be made? These are questions that need to be satisfactorily answered without rhetoric or hyperbole before any further action can be taken.
Thank you. The next registered speaker is Councillor David Payne. Would you like to come to the seat, please, David?
Thank you, Chair. I'm broadly in favour of this. I think the library could and should easily be relocated in the building we're in, which is underpopulated, just as central, and pretty much hermetically sealed. So on the point of saving energy, I think it could just as easily move into this building. My real concerns about this plan is that it's not very well thought through. I think it's splattered with epithets like a digital town. What's a digital town? Can anybody tell me? We're going to copy Bromsgrove. Has Bromsgrove proved so successful? I think that, and also I think a project of this magnitude needs good financial management. We don't have that. I think when we had a trouble back in January about the Redditch accounts, the accounts for 2021 were not then delivered. Perhaps, Peter, you can tell us if they have subsequently been delivered, which would mean that we are 2 years behind on our financial accounts. So the financial planning for this is something that concerns me greatly. I see a risk of overrun and high risk of increased costs. I think that, as I say, we don't have the financial resources to deal with this, and the epithets that sprinkled around like digital town, worst of all copying Bromsgrove, I mean, it shouldn't ring true with anybody, it doesn't ring true with me. And there's certainly my final point, as you would expect me to make, is that the green aspect of this has been almost totally ignored in the report. I think there should be far more made of it. Any development, we would need a far greater green component that is suggested in this report. So I'm broadly in favour of it, but you're not doing enough to facilitate it in the proper way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is also a public speaker here in the room, Emily Tyrrell. You've got to make your way to the chair and press the purple button and you'll bring them to you.
On behalf of my 6-year-old son Ronnie and myself, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting, which happens to fall during Library Week. I have good relationships with members of all parties and people with varying political views, and I have never criticised the town deal plans as a whole. But like thousands of others, I believe these plans for the library are reckless and nonsensical. The leader of the council is a businessman, and so it cannot be too difficult for him to see that spending £5.2 million in order to facilitate spending £4.2 million is a little like justifying buying a new kitchen by saying it doesn't match your new toaster. He once said to me that if the library stays where it is, the allotted demolition money would have to be returned to the government. Even I can work out that would result in a saving of £5.2 million. And the savings wouldn't stop there. The huge environmental impact of demolition is well documented. Not only is the current purpose-built library still perfectly suitable, it is smart from a recent £1 million refurbishment. How can we call ourselves a green town if these plans go ahead? An estimated 30 to 40% of current library users are incidental, that is, passing trade from the Kingfisher Centre. That slope down to the town hall then is a very slippery one. As we have seen countless times before, bad decision making in library services can also so easily spiral into fewer library users, triggering cuts to services and so on. Councillor Dawn complains about lack of aspiration in Redditch. But what message is he sending out? Whilst our neighbouring cities of Worcester and Birmingham have recently built large standalone libraries, Redditch Council is planning the opposite with our second most used library in Worcestershire. Does Redditch Council really want to be seen to be sweeping this invaluable education facility down the hill to make way for coffee shops? If there was a genuinely good reason to move the library, we'd have heard it by now. Instead, we have heard a string of baseless, often absurd justifications, for example, mentioning the small amount of asbestos in the roof, which, ironically, would be only a problem under demolition. It is an insult to the intelligence of Redditch people to assume that they cannot see that councillors are justifying these plans with problems that simply do not exist. And why, after being told that plans were for an empty space, do the plans now involve building more units? We have plenty of empty units already. Along with thousands of others, I wholeheartedly object to these plans. I dread to think how the council intends to raise £5.2 million and how it can justify so much waste. I reiterate that I am not against change nor regeneration, but rather I am in favour of common sense and against backward steps. I therefore implore Redditch Council to leave the town centre's most important facility in the purpose-built, central, standalone and prominent location it deserves. Thank you.
And on time. On time. That was 3 minutes. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mrs. Townsend, who's in the building, I think. If you'd like to take your seat and press the mode button when you're ready and start to speak, we will start the 3 minutes timer. Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Rosie. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to tell you what the library means to me. I've lived in Redditch since August 1976, which is the same year that the library was opened. I was the youngest of 4 children, and after speaking to my mother, the library was a very important part of our first years in Redditch. It was the perfect place for her to bring us children and meet new people. My mother also created a playgroup by Moonsmount First School, bringing together people she met at the library. I was a regular user of the library during my school years, where I found a quiet place to study and revise without distractions and with all the resources needed at my fingertips. When I became a mother, I would take my children to the library in the same way as my mother did for us. It was here that I learned of a group of young mothers, positively young mums, which enabled me to find people in the same situation as myself and pushed us to create Why Me, which was a group of young mums going into school to educate teenagers of what life was really like having a baby young. We created work packs that were purchased by schools far and wide. Our group managed to make its way nationally and we were invited to a conference in London to promote what we were doing. I'm now a very proud grandmother to a 2-year-old who has been a user of the library, albeit intermittent during the pandemic. My daughter takes her on a Thursday to parents with my mum and takes my mother along too. This ensures that the values of the library from one generation to the next are a shared experience and gives my mum, who is one of the elder generation, the ability to get out of her home to a place that is familiar and welcoming. The reason I'm sharing this? The library is where it all started. It was and still is a very vibrant and inclusive hub of Redditch. It caters for everybody. They're all meant to feel welcome, helped, listened to and assisted through many different avenues. It provides a safe, secure environment from a prominent position which is easily accessible by all. The resources it has and the groups that are held there to support the community are invaluable. I don't believe there is an alternative building for this that would be able to meet the criteria. The library was purpose-built with the necessary equipment and a refurbishment in 2009 gave it the investment required to bring it to date. The town hall would not be suitable. The costs involved in ensuring that the archives of Redditch are preserved in the same manner as they are now do not really make for a viable option. For me, the town hall is not a social venue. It's where people go with issues. It's not a central location, being on the outskirts of the town. The current location of the library is right in the centre of town, giving higher footfall to the Kingfisher Centre.
Can you wind up, please?
I'm almost there.
Yeah, just put your purple button on again, I'll switch you on.
Whereas the routes into the town hall offer members of the public the opportunity to bypass the town centre altogether. I implore you to reconsider the demolition of such a fantastic resource to add more food and beverage shops where there is scope to add them elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next speaker isn't here. It's a written statement. It's in the name of Oliver Hale. Joe Gresham will read out the statement.
For a long time there have been 2 questions regarding the proposed relocation of the library to the town hall. Firstly, how much will it cost to repair the town hall and move the library direction? Secondly, where will the money come from? The publication of the Town Hall Hub proposal has answered these questions. The cost is 5.2 million and the source of this funding is capital receipts, which as far as I can tell means selling council assets. The ultimate purpose of the Town Hall Hub proposal is not to correct any deficiency in the library, but, and I quote, facilitating the use of 4.2 million of town's funding at the existing library site. I would like to raise 3 objections to this plan. I do not think spending 5.2 million to move a popular and purpose-built library a distance of 100 metres can be justified. 2. I do think the environmental impact of demolishing a serviceable building can be justified. It has been said that the easiest path to sustainability is longevity. Using a building for lumber is the best return on the greenhouse gases that were generated in its construction. The environmental cost of manufacturing building materials is huge. In fact, the manufacturing sector produces more greenhouse gases than all forms of transportation combined. 3. I think it is inappropriate to spend 5.2 million of public money to enable commercial development of the town centre to occur. The aim of relocating the library is to make space for cafes and restaurants. The council will receive a negligible annual net revenue from rent estimated at £94,042. I believe that if businesses wish to open new restaurants and cafes, it should be the businesses that pay for the construction. In addition, it should be businesses that show a very real risk that the commercial units will never be fully tenanted, not the people of Redditch. In summary, I would like to voice my objections to the Town Hall Hub plan. I believe spending council money to unlock a government grant of a smaller value is like putting the cart before the horse. Furthermore, I believe the financial and environmental cost of moving the library cannot be justified, and I think it inappropriate for the council to fund commercial development.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is in the room. It's Councillor Andy Fry. If you'd like to make your way to the seat, I think you know what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've done a really poor job at advertising this. I think, and I speak as a newly elected county councillor. Yes, it's my 17th year on Worcestershire County Council, but the 1st of September is a newly elected county councillor. So all the way through that time, I've supported the local library service, the Woodrow Library Service, and I speak as county councillor for both Redditch Library and Woodrow Library. But we made a mess of selling this to the people. We as an authority, have told so many untruths about the actual library building. The people of Redditch have been told that the roof was no good, the amount of asbestos was horrific, the archives had damp in them and things like that, and it needed newspaper articles to actually tell the people of Redditch that that was all untrue. The archives are very important to Redditch because that's our history. It is still unclear precisely where those archives will actually end up. I believe that the move from the current location to Redditch Town Hall or the community hub is the wrong one. It is taking the library away from the people of Redditch. Many people do not come down this side of Redditch, which is unfortunate, but it is certainly what happens. We have made a poor job of this. The money has gradually gone up. 104.2 million for demolition. We've got to find 5.2 for transforming this building into a community hub. That's 9.4 million for a building that's perfectly good enough. It's a good, well-used building which I've spent a lot of money in. We put from my original funding over the years. I spoke to Simon Garrity, the leader of Worcestershire County Council, about what he knew about this, and he said he hasn't seen the report yet. it's in the hands of the cabinet member with responsibility. So, as a committee, we are asked to make a decision here, and the leader of the county council, which we remember, will remain a county council asset. He knows nothing about it yet. He said, "I obviously willing time, but this seems very premature." Oh, I'm being told the benefit. I believe that the move to Redditch Town Hall is the wrong move for the people of Redditch. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And the final contributor isn't in the room, it's a written statement, and it's Michelle Flack. Joe Gresham will read the statement.
What would be the financial implications for Redditch if the plan goes ahead and the councils fail to rent or sell hospitality units included in the building? A strong possibility, considering Wetherspoon's chains are trying to sell the rising plot opposite. Why are we proposing to spend money that should be for Redditch to buy a site Worcester County Council is responsible for? This money could be used to update the town hall into a hub as proposed, with no need to sell off assets.
Thank you very much. That concludes agenda item number 4. We now go to agenda item number 5, which is in additional papers number 1. And the presenter of the report is going to be Ruth or Kevin or Peter, or between all three.
If you could call Clayton in the first instance.
Sorry?
If you could call Clayton in the first instance.
Clayton, I can't see behind me. So, Clayton the Ponder, please. You'll explain who you are, so they can know who it is.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm the program delivery manager at North Worcestershire Economic Development and Regeneration, and I'm the lead project manager on the redevelopment of the library site. The report that we have presented in front of you, which is the full business case for the redevelopment of the library site, we commissioned external consultants called Mott MacDonald in order to as a delivery partner to prepare that report for us, which we will then present to the Department of Leveling Up Housing and Communities. Within the report, we did so many options appraisal to look at what is the best option for us to deliver what has been agreed within the town investment plan on the vision and objectives. And the final proposition that we agreed on, or which was agreed on by the senior leadership team or the corporate leadership team, is a small footprint building measuring 612 square meters, and also with provision, just like what the other speakers have been saying, with provision for food and beverage, and also co-working spaces, which is located on 2 floors. The development is also going to incorporate a public plaza, which is going to, with a footprint of 1,172 square meters. The report, everything has been costed so far, and the estimated project cost at this point in time is 4.197 million. I'm ready to take any questions with regards to what is in the report or what areas of concerns people have with the full business case as it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Do Ruth or Peter wish to speak at this stage?
Thank you, Chair.
You turn yourself off. That's it.
So just to reiterate and to clarify for people here, this is a project that does not seek to close the library at Redditch Town Centre, but at a very high level seeks to have it relocated. And the logic behind that is the logic that was submitted to central government originally in terms of the town investment plan, and the high level objectives of that are in the report. But as has been already referenced, it's to provide better connectivity between the Kingfisher shopping centre and the conservation area, Many people drive to the shopping centre and don't enjoy what we've got on offer at the conservation area. And we've got a conservation area that's not as thriving as it could be. There are vacant units there. So the high level objective is to provide better connectivity, but also to, in addition to the plaza, to provide an opportunity for food, beverage and places where people can get together, whether that's to work or socialise. The real decision before exec in due course is whether or not to submit a summary of the business case that is attached to Appendix 1 to central government or not. That's the actual decision. We've already had agreement from central government that this is a project worth spending money on, and if we can provide more information to central government, then that will release the money. So that is the actual decision before exec in due course. That document has to be submitted to central government by the 15th of October. That's a slight extension on the back of the death of the Queen. That's all I've got to say at this stage, but as Clayton has said, if you've got detailed questions on the actual 5-point business case attached to Appendix 1, officers can answer those questions, or if you've got questions on the covering report and the original objectives of the proposal, that can be answered also. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, at this stage or not?
Thank you, Chair. Just one. My only one is to keep it in budget, which is government funding for this part of the project.
Okay. If I will kick off then, I have a few questions. Thank you first of all for a very detailed report. I've read it. It's surprised to hear, but I didn't read it. I'd also like to thank the 8 speakers in the room and the contributions. They were clearly well thought out and heartfelt remarks that were made. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank all those contributors. If I do the questions one at a time, I've got a few, and then we'll take obviously other members' questions as we get to them. The first one, and it touches on some of the remarks made by the speakers, have the County Council, who are the owners of the library, given formal member approval in writing to dispose and demolish the library site? If not, how can we submit the plan without this formal approval?
Through you, Chair. That's covered in the second report. We have from the County Council, and obviously anything to do with the library has to follow the right consultation process. We have a memorandum undertaking from officers at the County Council prior to their discussion at the committee, which is in 2 weeks' time, to say, should the process of consultation say move the library from one place to the other, they are fully behind it from an officer point of view. And I've got a signed letter showing that.
Have we seen a copy of the memorandum? Have members seen that in Redditch Borough Council members?
I can show that, it's not a problem.
Okay. So I don't think we have. Well, I certainly haven't seen a copy of it. But, if it can be distributed to members, that would be great. My second question, the report does not detail any site plans, designs for the library site, or the new proposed library facilities in the town hall. Are there any detailed plans we can see?
In terms of, through you, Chair, in terms of the library move to this building, we can't do any further on that until we get the agreement to move forward in 2 weeks. We have draft views which have costed at 5.2 million to move it to a public sector, a community art. However, we require to go into detailed assessment of all the space, further work to go on that as a start once we have the community approval at the council.
Okay, thank you. My next question, the town's plan and the county council say there needs to be consultation on the future provision. given we're only seeing the plans for the first time this week in this report, and the council intends to submit the plan to government on the 14th or 15th of this month, is it not the case we've not fulfilled the requirement to submit the business case?
The board that makes the decisions is in the public arena, and it's on the website. Those meetings are, like a public record that's available. It'll be the task of DLUC when we send in subject to member endorsement and a proposal to evaluate whether there's been public consultation that's been appropriate. I would also point out that before the original submission was supported by central government, in other words, that identified the monies to come to Redditch, that there was consultation held here at the town hall. I know it was November, but I can't remember the year. I think it was 2019.
But we haven't seen these plans. In the plan to submit to the tip was to demolish the library, 4.2. It didn't say anything else other than that. So the detail will only just come out now. So people haven't been consulted on the detail other than the demolition of the library. So there's been no consultation on the plans we've got before us now. That's what's going on. Kevin?
So I'm just trying to help on that. I think it was a key criteria within the town's investment plan that there had to be a library provision within the town centre. I think that's effectively been discharged by the letter of comfort that Mr Carpenter referred to. The consultation in the local county council, which will ensue after the decision has been made by the county council and cabinet. I understand that you have plans and interests, so I think we have satisfied the criteria within the town's funding.
Thank you. My next question. This project was costed 2-3 years ago. Since then we've had Brexit, COVID, cost of living crisis, and now inflation at 10%. But yet in this business plan it's still on budget with a 3-storey building included. The report states in various places, page 11 for example, under funding, that this is a high risk that allocated funding will not be sufficient to deliver all aspects of the project. The 2 previous business cases the council considered on the town investment plan, we considered both, and that both were substantially over budget, and the council had to find those additional funds, either themselves or through looking for grants elsewhere. So given that, how confident are you this budget can be delivered on time and on budget?
Thank you, Chair. There's been a process over the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months, since we submitted the initial 2 tip bids, the Innovation Centre and Public Groundworks, in cost re-engineering and redesigning what this site will look like. There was an initial building that was designed, which was over £6 million. So since that point, this building has been redesigned and specified slightly down so that it meets the budget requirements. There are risk allowances in here and inflation allowances based on present factors.
So you're confident that we're on time, on budget, and the fact it does say in the report that there is high risk of allocated funding not being sufficient?
With the present figures I have, I agree with the statement. However, you are quite right. We are in unprecedented times at the moment. And so the key to the delivery of this project and the town hall project is proper project management and timing to make sure we deliver in the timescales required.
Thank you. My next question is who and or where will the storage of the current and future library archives be kept and where will it be viewed? I'll say it again. Who and or where will the storage of the current and future library archives be kept, stored, and will they be able to be viewed?
I'm not sure that I I'm not sure that decision's been made. I think that will be part of the consultation that the council would undertake about the relocation of the library. No, I've heard different versions, but I think that will just need to run its course unless the officers have heard for definite.
Yeah.
Chairman, through you, that will have to be a matter for county council's consideration of future concerns of the libraries.
Thank you. My next question, on page 102 of the report, it says in the notes, alongside various lines of the finance, rates have been reduced for the client budget. So this be explained.
So what that means is initially,
Put the lights on.
oh, sorry, through you, Chair. So what that means initially, we had a building design that was a lot bigger. What that means is now this has been recost engineered to the smaller building.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, can we have a timeline for the completion? It's due in 2026, the completion of the project. So can you advise the various timeline steps in the project and the cost for the provision of the new library facility at the town hall when it starts, the completion dates and the cost for those?
Through you, Chair, that's being worked on at the moment. In terms of the time scales and how the build will go, depending on consultation, because that is the first stage, the end point must be the 31st of March 2026. After that time, we're liable for any of the additional costs.
But it's true to say, it's true to say the demolition of the library can't start until the new facility has been completed, that there can be no backup provision. So we need timeline.
Through your Chair, correct, and that's what's being worked on at the moment through both projects, that there are different timelines depending on the outcome of the consultation.
Thank you. The next question is, who will own the new proposed new building, the 3-storey rectangular building on the current library site? Did you hear that?
Thank you, yeah. We will have a 125-year lease from the county council.
So the owner will be the Borough Council on a 125-year lease.
We have.
Supplementary to that one is, who will manage the new proposed rectangular 3-storey building on the current library site?
Through your Chair, that will be us. Again, we need to look at our structures as we go forward, because going slightly wider, we have this, we have the austerity fund funding, we have other items in the capital programme, we have rationalisation of our present assets, and potentially we have letting up bid soon, which could be another £50 million that we need to manage in these time periods. So we have to look at all of those at the same time.
So we will run and manage the food and beverage and the office space of
We still, pretty sure, we still want to assess that as we go forward.
Okay. I will follow the speakers, but to start the debate, I'll move a recommendation. O&S, and this is a recommendation to the executive on agenda item 5. O&S, having considered the report, advise the executive not to endorse the business case and not to proceed with the project for the following reasons. The risks are too high and the financial returns are too low. Instead, the council does not have the authority from which the county council to proceed with the project to demolish the town centre library. I move. Look at the speakers and seconds. Councillor Baker was the first I saw.
Right, I'll second that, Chair. Is it all right to ask some questions and do some comments?
I asked a series of questions. I've been encouraging members classes. Instead of jumping on page 950, ask all your questions in one go, and that made it easier. I think others can cope If you've got a page, I'll find a page, the general question, they can answer the question, and there's a potential 3, if not 4, officers to answer the questions on our behalf.
Okay.
So, as many questions as you wish, Councillor Baker. And you seconded the proposal?
Yes. I'm all in favour of redevelopment and making the town hall into a vibrant community hub. I think we have a big building here that's now not being used to its full capacity, and I think it makes financial sense to get organisations to come in and to rent the library, and even the town hall, and even doing a little bit of a refurb and all that to enable us to do it so that council can run its business safely and securely, and also that these organisations that may wish to rent can also rent and occupy the building safely and securely. I remember having a conversation many years ago when I was first elected, how we were trying to push this area, the chamber for events and weddings and discos and parties as a way of trying to make revenue. But there's a few things that I'm a little bit concerned about. One of the things, as I was listening to Peter with the finances, and you know, you always can put a figure on different things of like 5.2 million, but sometimes things do go over budget. And I remember many years ago when I lived in Scotland, when it was the proposals for the Scottish Parliament, and I think it was the original budget proposal was 46 million, and it ended up costing the country 986 million. No, I know that isn't going to be the case. I know this isn't going to be the case here in Redditch, but finance does worry me because we're already a council that is strapped for cash, and I think one of the speakers actually did mention one of the financial assets. So Ruth mentioned a comment about the connectivity and parking. People park in the Kingfisher, they go into the Kingfisher, but they don't come out here. Now I'm with you 100% on that. I would love to see Church Green and all the areas around full of people using the lovely little independent shops that are there. However, if we're wanting people to come this side and down here, they still have to park at the back of the Kingfisher Centre, because where would the parking be for people coming up here? There's no real car parking, is there? So they would still have to park through into the Kingfisher and walk through and out. But I'm going to go through some of the pages. I'll go through 107. Peter did cover this slightly briefly, but I didn't quite catch the answer on the memorandum. I've got it down in the memorandum, but did the county actually give permission? Did the county actually give permission?
So I have a letter of comfort saying, from the officers, saying pending the outcome of the consultation, that they support it.
That they're giving permission.
We're going to get circulated a copy of the memorandum.
The letter of comfort.
Okay, so it's right, then 105. Now I tend to try and put my I try to put my business head on as much as I can when I'm looking at figures and costings. Now it's going to cost roughly 4.2 million to demolish the existing library building and to build this restaurant and these two other floors with offices at 4.2, what was it, 4.4 million? 4.2 was it? Now, if the rent for these buildings is going to be about £90,000 a year, it's going to take a lot of years for us to recuperate the value of what it costs to knock it down. Is it something like 40 odd years before that 4.2 million gets back to us? Now, if I was the government giving us 4.2 million and they were saying we're going to get £90,000 back on the rent of it, I'd be a bit, well, it's not really good value for money. So I'd like a little bit of an explanation on that one, if you could.
We'll stop there, perhaps. And would answer the question, so you're going to run out of space.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, yeah. In terms of 4.2 million, you're right, the 4.2 million is from a government grant. The TIP proposal set out what the government are expecting us to do, and they are expecting us to put what we are proposing to do on that site to deliver. So the £90,000 in terms of the income deliverable is the restaurants. It doesn't touch the fact that we'll probably have space above which we'll be renting out as well. It's just talking about the restaurants. However, this links back to the document which said this is what this money is going to be used for. And again, as Ruth has just said, that is what the government will look at when we send the proposition in at the end of next week.
Right. So if I was a taxpayer, because obviously it's my taxpayers' money that's going into that 4.4 million that the government is giving to us, I would be saying that's not good value for money that the government is choosing that money for. And in your page on 105, it's got the rent characteristics. The offices, obviously a year rent 3, it's going to be 55,000 a year. The basement, which is the kitchen, would be 9,000 a year. And obviously I think it's F&B, food and beverage. So that ground floor market rent again is 29,000. So that only adds up to roughly about 90,000. So that's all we will be getting, and it all looks in the first year we'll be making nothing back on that anyway.
I think we are focusing too much on the economic side, because there are also societal benefits which are associated with the move. And these actually increase, it is increasing the town centre footfall and then encouraging further development. What we are trying to achieve is use this development as a catalyst to encourage more development around the town centre, and then also making people feel secure whilst they are in the town centre. Because one of the comments which have come into public consultation is that people don't feel safe when they are in the town centre. So those are some of the societal benefits, which are the spin-offs, which will come up through the redevelopment of the library side.
Okay, I tend to disagree with you on that one. I don't think having a posh restaurant and offices is going to make anybody feel safe. I think a high police presence and good lighting makes people feel safe, not a restaurant. And I tend to feel that obviously we've got empty restaurants that have been empty for a few years, and they open and they close. So I can't see how building another restaurant and having offices when we've already got empty offices is going to make the town vibrant. But we'll move on. Page 101 has some of the estimates for the demolition. Now, with these quotes, we've got what's a facilitating works estimate at £500,000.
Got 4 there, Peter, for one. Clayton.
Let me look at the. Are we talking about the development appraisal?
I'm looking at page 101.
Page 101, the £500,000.
And 505,000, the facilitating works, those are enabling works, which need to be undertaken in order for us to develop the site. And that includes some of the things that we need to be doing with regards to the demolition and all the other works associated with it. It is the enabling works, because we can't just demolish without having some enabling works done.
Right. And further down, we've got project and design team fees of £239,000. Now that's a bit steep for a design. Now the question I was going to ask you was, has there been different quotes, or have you just used the one company, or have you got any of the figures that might have been cheaper, that have been expensive, or is this?
Those are the current market rates. Those are the current market rates that are currently being used right now across the industry. So when we are doing a development appraisal, what we do take up all the BCIS rates. So the Building Cost Information Services, all that information of all the projects that are delivered across the country, all that information is populated into that portal. So that's where you get those market rates to say, if you are going to be appointing designers at this point in time, this is the market rate. So it's 7.5% of the development value. It is a standard across. It doesn't matter if it's the public library or if it's the HS2. It is still going to be the same percentage fee.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that one. Obviously I did mention about the footfall that was on page 54. I tend to disagree with the impact on increase of footfall. I don't see, I was led to believe that when the demolition of the building was going to happen, there was just going to be a flat open space for community events and bits and pieces. There was no talk at that time of another structure being put in place. I thought it was going to be an open walkway to the back of the Kingfisher. So I struggle to see how knocking down the library is going to encourage footfall. So page 36.
Sorry, can I answer that?
Yeah. It wasn't a question, it's a comment, but you can answer if you want.
Yeah, okay, within that there is a provision for 1,172 square meters of a public plaza, which is the area that you're talking about.
So I don't have my hearing aids, so I can't barely hear, so I do apologise. Then page 36 is my next question, was what are these market failures about on page 36? It says, I find it quite interesting because it's spending nearly 5.2 million on refurbishing the town hall for the libraries, and many town centre assets, including the library and surrounding public realm, are in public ownership and suffer from free riding effects. The overuse of an asset by those who aren't directly paying for it. This has led to underinvestment, as the library is not seen as an attractive investment asset with clear social economic benefits. As public goods such as the library do not offer private investors opportunity to generate revenue at sufficient levels to make investment financially viable. I find that comment quite insulting, to be honest with you. It's snobbery at its highest form. And if, when we're talking about the library not being a viable asset, what on earth are we spending 5.5 million moving it? It's contradictory. The report contradicts itself there. And I think the public who use the library, I think they'd be quite insulted by saying that they're free riders on the library. I think it's quite an insult to put that kind of wording in a public document. It's disgraceful. So that's just a comment. And also in the bottom is the imperfect information and coordination failures. Now it talks about Unicorn Hill and Church Green. Now, I agree. I think I've had discussions with the leader several times about Unicorn Hill and the improvements that Unicorn Hill could have. And I think that still needs to be looked at, because obviously you've got the bus garage, the train station, and it's a really good idea to kind of develop that. So I tend to agree with that, so that's a positive. But coming to the final couple of questions, we've got page 21. It says, Redditch Borough Council will deliver the project using a council-led model that is a standard practice for RBC having used it over the last 20 years. What's the standard method of procurement that we're doing with that? So what's the standard method?
Through services using standard government frameworks, which are useful procurements.
Right, okay.
And the government procurement processes.
Okay, and it leads on to, leads on to a question which I think a lot of people, because we're all about investment in Redditch, and I, you know, as a Redditch businessman, I'm not in development in construction or I don't sell tools or anything like that. So it's an area that I don't have very much knowledge on. But if we are going to be doing this project and going ahead with this project, what guarantee is there that we're going to use local labour? We're going to use businesses within Redditch, because it's important if we're doing that Redditch businesses get the contracts, they get the labour, and if we're doing that, are we writing into contract trade union conditions within those contracts?
Can I answer that?
I think Peter can answer. I'll play it.
Yes. In all contracts that we are doing right now, when we are going out to tender, we have got what they call the social value act. So within the social value act, that's when we actually stipulate that, you know, whoever is going to be a successful contractor, we set up some quotas to say, whatever it is you do, we need those local labor, we need you to spend within the local market. So all those things are actually built in within the tender documents themselves.
And thank you for that. That's very reassuring. And will they have the same trade union conditions?
Let's say I'm on the trade union conditions. I'm not very familiar with that element.
No.
I think it's very difficult through you, Chair, for us to be able to make those sorts of stipulations. What we can do is to set out the criteria over which we will have control, and we are working, and indeed have had a meeting today with prospective contractors to make sure that those that could be part of the framework are part of a framework that would be capable of applying. But in terms of the trade union activity within those, it would not be a matter for the council, it would be a matter for those companies.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Claire. I think if I was putting the contract either to Ruth or Peter, if they were going to be building contractors, and I saw that Ruth, you know, followed trade union guidelines, had good contracts with her staff and had a good work ethic, and Peter was like, I'll just hire anybody from the back of the minibus, I would probably go with Ruth. So I do think the council does have a control and a say on what our contractors do and they don't provide. And I think it's important, ethically, as a council, that we make sure that the people that we're employing are following the guidelines, and also that they have trade union values and have contracts that our workers are safe with and happy with. So I think that's something we could look into. Final question, I think. I think it's on page 20. With the financial case, the total project case for the library project is 4.2 million. That is going to be solely funded through the town's fund grant of 4.2 million. With the asset then, how much is the asset going to cost, and how much do we have to pay? But there's no mention of the acquisition of the cost of the Redditch Library building for Worcestershire County Council.
No cost, pretty much no cost, because of the 125-year lease.
Right.
Okay,
So they're giving it to us for nothing then?
Because we are looking at a reciprocal deal in terms of the library.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, I've got a hand up there, Claire, just to answer or say something. I'm not sure. I can't see you, Claire, I'm looking in the other direction. But your hand went up some time ago.
Thank you, Chair. Most people are pleased that they can't see me. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to respond. I had, apologies, Chair, assumed that Councillor Baker had already appreciated that the local government frameworks and the contracts that we work through already meet the criteria, the levels of criteria that he cited. So if I can give comfort to the room that those basic criteria that have been cited are already dealt with as a part of the process for people managing to get onto a framework in the first place. So we wouldn't even entertain dealing with people in the way that Councillor Baker has described.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned before about the green agenda, and we talk about the green agenda, and it's sometimes just like a throwaway comment, and you always get this when you either demolish a building or actually do a new building. And I'm sure this discussion was taking place in the late 60s when the old library was still, as we know, is still there on Church Road West, and the new library was built back in the 60s. And if you ever have a look and say, to me, I don't think it's a very auspicious building or anything else. Other people might disagree and say it's a wonderful building. But you have to look at it as a whole. And when we look at the changing of this now, in the business case and everything else, which I see before us is on the report, I think we have to look at the long-term view. And the long-term view, I believe, with the library moving to this building, I think it will be a secure, because this building there, with other services coming in as a whole, I think it will bring generating more income to this council and work together and bring more people in together. So the connectivity, which is around the whole of Redditch, will be a lot easier. The car park, which is, we talk about car park too, that through there, on that little alleyway, shall we say, or on the passport, or what he wants. I think is a lovely route, and the canopy is there as well. I think it will bring people around the town centre, because when you look at this building, the library building, we've been talking about this since 2017, when the library group first brought it up, and one of the things in that plan, and in this particular plan which we have before us, was the demolition of the library. And the reason was because we could all see we want to revitalise the area of the town centre, and this is, I think we all agree on that, and that's how we should look at it. So in that respect, this is how long it's been talking about. We're now in 2022, so it's not a new thing, it's been going on a long time. Redditch was one of the, unfortunately, with the Labour plan, that didn't have the money to do it, you see, so, and that's why it was never proceeded. When we took control into this, and we looked at this, the government then come out with the town centre levelling up funding. Redditch was successful in bidding, and we got £15 million for this. And we, in part of that, right, we had to set up a board, and you'll see it in the papers in the board there. And you look at it there, because we looked at, the board looked at various plans around this, and the council discussed it a number of times of what you can and can't do and things like that. And it always has to go through a process. And you look at the process to go through, and came to a Friday when it came up to split early on. There's a big disingenuous of me when we spoke really, because Andy has been 17 years as a councillor, over 30 years as one councillor. But if you look on page 45 of the report, it talks about a stakeholder, which is Worcester County Council. On page 76 of the report, you'll see Councillor Simon Gellerton is a board member of the town board. So I'll just take a part of that, because that's not quite right, because, as I say, we have to go through this and go through the process. The actual library services themselves, they're not ours, they're not by the council, they're county council part. So therefore, the consultation, right, before it goes to council, we have to approve it here as such, as councillors. And if this is passed here, right, not only here tonight, but also at the executive on Tuesday, and full council on Monday, when you're also the next council meeting that will go through. So this is what we're going to be agreed before we can present to the county council, to their committee, right? Because that's the process we have to go through. And you can't bypass that process because it's not legal. We have to do things legally. This is the legal way to do it. So we're going through the process we have to go through. We present a case to the county council to move the services there. They will then look at it into detail and then come back to us and go through the process because the service is there to the process and consultation with all the residents before it's all decided. So that us going through this process, this is only one step and there's still a long way to go. Even when there's all, if everything is being agreed by both councils, it then has to go, you have a look at the time scale of when this is being done. It's going to be another 3 or 4 years time. And we talk about the restaurants or the bars or whatever it is, you have to look to the future and say to yourself, where does Redditch want to go? We all know that building where this is now, it's in the right place. It doesn't connect up. This is something we're trying to do, connect up. And I believe this is the right way for us to go, to take things forward. And I believe it will be better in the long term for the people of Redditch.
Thank you. Just make an observation on what you said.
Mike.
Keep going on. What you said in one of your points you made, the place private document you referred to in 2017 wasn't a local body document, it was a multi-agency written document which was presented to council, labelled with the administration, and they gave no indication on any of the various options or aspects of the report. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. We're considering this report here tonight, not 2017, what may or may not have happened. So hopefully hopefully that won't be raised again. I'll just go backwards. I want to go forwards on the report we're considering tonight. Councillor George.
Can I just come back on that? Because the report which the Labour administration, who was in control at the time, in 2017, proposed this building for flats, and that was one of the things we discussed. It was discussed another time at council, wasn't it?
It was one of the various options, we get no indication. Councillor Shaw.
One word, please.
Could you Thank you, Chair. I'll just start off by... I have my hand now.
There's Councillor Paul.
Please could you just repeat the motion you put forward, just so I can make it, sorry.
O&S, having considered the report, advises the executive not to endorse the business case and not to proceed with this project for the following reasons. The risks are too high and the financial returns are too low, and the council does not have authority from Bushey County Council to proceed with the project to demolish the library in the town centre.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Chalk.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to start by asking people to look at page 17 if you can, and after that is the actual vision statement that was given out as to why we started this process, and that is a vision to transform Redditch from a traditional new town, a great place to live and work, investment and visitors, destination, basically that is where we're coming from. That's our starting point, and I think that's what we should be worried about. One of our speakers talked about having to get 50% of the population's permission to do something. We've never had that. Redditch Borough Council always been organised on a first past the post, and we've never had proportional representation. It's always been first past the post. Now, the reason I'm concerned is the fact that once more, this Conservative administration is trying to move the town forward.
We're trying to invest in the town and move things forward. In the years that I've been on the council and we've had other alternative administrations, very little, if anything, has ever been done for the town. It's always been fed stagnation. Occasionally we've made a complete mess of things and we sold off the market to Debenhams, which no longer exists, because that was going to be God's answer to everything around the town centre. We're going to have massive footfall because we've got the Debenhams. We don't have a Debenhams anymore, so presumably we don't have the footfall there anymore. So that's great. So, and just as a final thing, I wonder how many people in this room can actually, honestly, put their hand on their heart and say they know that they are sitting on top of an atomic bomb shelter. When we built this town hall, and hands on your heart, Andy. Yeah, it's all we know that down on our basement is an atomic bomb shelter. Okay? Thank God it's never ever been used. And I don't know yet, Mike. Yeah, the way it wasn't be going along, you might be right. But, you know. And I know it's actually at the moment full of council archives, which is part and parcel of our borough, the town's archives anyway. But so there is a place for the archives, you know, secure archives. You can't get much more secure than an atomic bomb shelter. So, you know, we can make use of this building to do the job which we're looking to do. So I think, I'm sorry, Chair, but I cannot support your motion in the way it's go for.
Any more statements, Councillor Harley?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions, not in a particular order, but I think we'll start with page 65, which is about commercial liability. And I'm just concerned that it says market testing has not been undertaken specifically for the new building. So why is that? And what's leading us to believe that these three relatively small cafe bar units are going to bring in enough footfall to generate that connectivity which we're talking about? They're going to be about 70 square metres each, aren't they?
Thank you, Ruth.
I think the issue is that the food and beverage offer at Kingfisher Centre is focused around the cinema. And for years there's been various businesses that have gone into the conservation area. There was a French restaurant, there was different sorts of restaurants
speaking to the mic,
that other people we could name, and they've come and they've gone. So the idea is to provide a food and beverage offer that in the first instance at least, certainly that we're in control of as the Borough Council, so that we can have that attractor in a place that acts as a conduit between the Kingfisher shopping centre and the outdoor area. So hopefully there will be that linkage created. It'll be like a bit of an anchor resource. But we do intend hopefully to be continuing our good working relationships with the Kingfisher shopping centre, so that the back end of the Kingfisher that currently looks onto the back end of the library, that can be opened up so that there's windows, and hopefully they'll have some food and beverage there as well. So that way there will be an area created together with the canopies in due course. That's a place that's attractive to be in, that's outdoors, that links to the indoors of the Kingfisher, the indoors of the new structure, and hopefully will be a trigger for more indoors offer on the underutilised units around the Church Green.
So I'm glad you mentioned the cinema end, because it does strike me that these new units are as far away from the current leisure offer as can be. That's just a comment really, but a comment I'd like to raise is that at the moment we're talking about driving footfall to that area of town, and the library generates 12,000 visitors every month, and it's going up. That's about 400 a day, so we've already got footfall generating through that area, through the library. So how confident are we that these food and beverage units and this plaza will increase that footfall?
Ruth?
Thank you. A particular focus on the initiative is the early evening economy. I think there is money in people's pockets in Redditch, and I hope that will continue to be the situation. But the monies that are in people's pockets in Redditch are being spent elsewhere outside of the borough if people want to spend money on food and drink in the evening. So the idea is that there will be at least as much of an attraction as there is in the daytime of the library, hopefully more, but also there would be that evening attraction. I suppose to answer the question as well about...
Lloyd?
To answer the question as well about confidence.
No.
I think we have to take some comfort as an organisation that the DLUT monies have been identified for this project, subject to us submitting a summary of the bid that's attached to Appendix 1 for them to scrutinise further. But it is encouraging, I think, for us as a town that the central government is offering money for this purpose in Redditch.
Thank you. The other thing which kind of leads on from that really is there's lots of things about risks in this document, but there's nothing at all about the risks to the library itself. So when are we going to see any sort of evidence that the library service itself won't suffer from a lack of lesser footfall or fewer visitors because it's being shifted away from its prime position in the town centre?
I think Peter, through you, Chair.
That's an county council must.
Then this is my opinion really, but it's kind of like we're sacrificing potentially a really good, well-used service for the benefit of business and shops and commerciality rather than actually library services. So I don't think it's something we can just brush off and say, county council can worry about that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I've got a hand from Claire Felton to intervene. On the board.
Through you, Chair, I can give members some comfort. We have been working with county council officers for some months now on this, and I am able to advise members that as part of the consultation process, some very detailed and searching questions will be asked, and the public will be given the full opportunity to give their views in respect of the library and the movement thereof, and the concerns that you're raising, if those are real and genuine concerns within the community. There will be an ample opportunity for that to manifest. So whilst Peter is right, it is a matter for the county. I know with my workings with the county that they take that job very seriously, and it is a huge importance to them that they capture this, and this will only happen if that process has been undertaken fully and thoroughly.
Claire, isn't that the cart before the horse though? Because we'd have made the decision and then be consulting on it.
Through you, Chair, we're not actually making decisions in respect of the library. What we're doing is enabling those decisions to be facilitated if in the fullness of time the consultation process proves to be a positive one. It would be very difficult for the library to consult in respect of their proposals if the space wasn't going to be available, and it would be very difficult. Indeed, I would even suggest that it would be impossible for the statutory process to be concluded properly when members of the public not shown and given a fulsome alternative with which they can make that informed decision. So what the Borough Council are doing is providing comfort in that space, whilst also acknowledging that in doing so there are massive benefits, or perceived or demonstrated benefits, to what's being proposed in the library's place.
Thank you, Claire. That does bring me on to kind of a point about consultation, which I've brought up several times in the past over this town deal stuff. So I can see in these documents that the next sort of public engagement is scheduled for February. It's not clear if that's on behalf of the town deal, if that's part of the county council consultation. That's not clear here. But the point is really, so far all the engagement we've had has very much glossed over the idea of demolishing the library. We've had various reports, and they've not really, one didn't even mention the word demolition. It mentions a plaza on near the library, on the side of the library, doesn't say it's going to be demolished. I think it's very much been glossed over, and that's why people are angry. I mean, over 2,000 residents have signed a petition to save the library, and there's not been any evidence so far that equal or larger numbers support it. So as we get on to more public engagement, is this going to be a case of us saying, this is what you're getting, or is there going to be opportunities for the public to actually listen to? And if the public persists in not liking this idea, will that be responded to appropriately?
Through you, Chair, do you want me to answer that question?
I think Kevin's going to
Oh, Kevin's going to try, sorry, Kevin.
No, he's conceding to you.
Through you, Chair, the consultation, Peter is absolutely right. The consultation in respect to the library, whether the library stays where it is or the library moves, is absolutely a matter for the county council. It's a tried and tested route. They know how to do it. It's a statutory process, and members of the public will be involved in doing that in the appropriate and statutorily identified way. So there is no question that the statutory consultation process that the County Council need to undertake in relation to the library won't happen. It's not what's being considered tonight, and we can give members comfort that the County Council are perfectly aware of their responsibilities in that space.
Thank you, that's very reassuring.
Kevin might just intervening, but I haven't given a question yet. Want to take an answer?
I think that's, I'll just check before I hand over the microphone. No, I think that more or less covers everything I've made notes on, so thanks, Chair.
Councillor Baker, second.
Thank you, Chair, for indulging me. I just want everybody just to stop for a second and actually think about where we are and what we're actually doing. This is the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and we shouldn't be thinking about what the leader of the council wants or the leader of the opposition wants. We should be thinking about what the public wants, because the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is the voice of the public. And we've already heard that there's been a petition of over 2,000 people signing that they don't want the demolition of the library building and the moving of the library. We've had a couple of campaigns where we've been out on the doors. We've heard people saying that they're concerned about the demolition of the library. We hear people telling us all the time that they're concerned. We've had speakers today coming in telling us they don't want the building demolished. We are the voice of the public in Overview and Scrutiny. We're not Labour councillors. We're not Conservative councillors at this point in time. We are the voice of the public, and we have to act on what the public want us to do to the executive. And I think it's important, Chair, that I pointed that out, because I think sometimes by what I'm hearing, it seems sometimes that there's a political leaning here towards certain aspects, and I know it's difficult for each of our members here on the committee not to try and lean to what the group wants, but we've got to think we're not here to push through the Labour agenda or the Conservative agenda or what happened 250 years ago when the Labour were in control of the town or whatever. We're here to do what the public want us to do, what the council wanted to do. We're their voice, and that we've got to start looking at that and start acting as their voice and not trying to plug up any particular party. So that's just a comment, Chair, before we all go to voting on political issues. Think about what the public has said today, and remember that we are here at their grace and favour.
Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chair. And I was going to spend a couple of minutes responding to the motion that you were very kind to read out twice. So, I mean, it's a long report and it is complicated in parts. And I think there has at points been some quite fair critique of the report, especially on the timelines. However, realistically, it's a yes or a no button. It's a do we submit the business case to government or do we not? And if we don't, then none of us will ever see the light of day, and the 4 million quid we've got might as well be burned. So when we look at it in that context, it focuses the mind on when you think about things like, what are the risks and how big are the risks? Well, if we look at the risks of inaction, we would be returning 4 million quid that could have created a town plaza which wouldn't have to pay for as Redditch Borough Council. If you look at the economics of this, I think Councillor Baker referred to rent for these visitors, but actually, I'm slightly disappointed that the two agenda items 5 and 6 are separate, because really it is one holistic vision for, knocking down the library and moving to Town Hall, and then the Town Hall Community Hub programme. But if you go to page 116, we're actually going to have a saving of between £450,000 a year, which, bear in mind the council's running a £1.2 million deficit at the minute, which we will continue to scrutinise on the minutes. Well, then that changes the game, really, because while we are spending £5 million of capital funding, that is a return of 10% a year, which actually would be pretty visionary for the future of the council. So, and when we ask questions about, financial costs and what the returns are, well, if we've got a deficit of £1.2 million and we have to plug that deficit, well, you start to think, well, what other services would we then not be able to provide if we can't rent out the Town Hall, we can't, create a community hub? In this chamber, we're all fond of many of the social things the council does that it doesn't necessarily have to do on a statutory level, like, diarise, short events, all of these things. But we actually all value and think and make a really good and important contributions to the town. So when you put it like that, the economics absolutely stack up, because otherwise it's a much more challenging economic environment by returning 4 million quid of taxpayers' money that we've been gifted by the government. And then secondly, on the memorandum of understanding, I think the idea to reject submitting this business case, which would regenerate the town centre and save us almost 500k a year, on the basis that we don't have formal approval by county, which they give us a memorandum of understanding that we're going to get anyway, would be completely absurd. So thank you very much. I'll have some more general comments on it all when we get to agenda item 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I think a number of members tonight have said various things. And I think it needs pointing out really, because I think people don't understand the democracy there. There's been a lot of misinformation being put out there, whether it's through word of mouth or a petition or whatever. Because I've seen headlines like most of us have in papers or on WhatsApp and Facebook, Twitter, the library is closing. It's gone altogether. There won't be a library service in Redditch. We've seen one which is going around saying none of the services are being replaced here. They're not going to be put in another building. That's it. You're not even have the wood library. That's all. And that's misinformation. And I think that's where people are being disingenuous towards residents here. Residents, us councillors, right, when we come to before the electoral, we go around talking to people. And we put our case forward. Whichever political party or independent person goes out and speaks to the people. That's the point of democracy that you vote for. Not putting misinformation out all the time. And when you have councillors, right, when they make decisions, a decision is not just saying we're going to do this or we're going to do that. On something as big as this, right, or anything else to be honest, because the process we have with that is just like a planning environment, right? You can't go and put something out there until you have plans. You can't have plans until your councillors discuss it. When the council discuss it, then the plans will go out to the residents to have a look at. That's a comment. Just exactly what you do when you have a planning application going before the planning officers. And that's the way to do it, not through all the misinformation which has been going on for far too long.
Thank you. I've got no more speakers. We've got a resolution recommendation to get it moved and seconded. I'll take that vote. Those in favour of recommendation, as I've read out and twice, as Councillor Corbett pointed out, but please indicate by raising their hands. Oh, I'm taking the vote.
I was going to say, could we have a named vote, Chair, please?
Yeah, but you can do.
It's my understanding that as long as the name vote is requested prior to the vote, then it can be a name vote.
Remember, I was the chair from Brandon.
Okay, a name vote it is then. You'll read out the names.
I'll just avoid you because
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Through you, Chair, I shall read out the names of the members. Councillor Altaf, if you could indicate whether you are for, against or abstain. Councillor Hartnett's proposal.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
For.
Councillor Chalk.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Court.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey. For. Thank you. Councillor Bierman.
Against.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair, that vote is lost.
You know when you beat, you can't even vote for the referendum.
Are you allowed to vote when you won't vote?
Apparently not. It's a new constitutional
Apologies, Chair. Through you. Councillor Hartnett, could you please indicate if you are for, against or abstain?
On balance on 4.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that that vote has been lost with 3 votes for and 5 against.
Thank you very much. That concludes agenda item number 5. Councillor Baker.
No, it's all right. If you're concluding me, that's fine.
Well, that's the end of the evidence. What did you want to say?
Nothing, it doesn't matter.
The next agenda item number 6, which is town hall upgrade work.
Councillor Hartman, could you just take a 5-minute comfort break?
Oh, is that what you've got to say? 5-minute comfort break.
For those on the team, just to let you know that there's 5 minutes comfort break in the room. We'll reconvene at 2011.
So you'll have 3 weeks then? Hopefully on a Sunday.
We've been there. Okay, yeah. Right, thank you. I think the 5 minutes are up. Most members are about to take their seats. So, agenda item number 6, starting on page 113, Town Hall upgrade works. I'm not sure who's going to present the case. Peter, I think.
Thank you, Chair. This report is about the move of this building to become a community hub. At the moment, the council, post-COVID-19, do not need space in this building. In fact, we can combine all of our services on its 2 floors. That means we have a significant cost in terms of running the building, in terms of business rates, utilities and everything else. It leaves the rest of the building available to turn into a community hub, which is 2.5 floors. We're in advanced negotiations with 2 significant clients for the majority of the space. One of those clients is looking to invest themselves a couple of £1 million in this facility. Obviously, one of the clients, which from the previous item, is the County Council, and part of that proposal is the moving of the library from its present location to the Town Hall, subject to the correct consultation process being run by the County Council. The space for the library, in terms of the initial conversations, and as has been mentioned in the previous item, county officers in the initial work is roughly 11 metres larger than the present library site in terms of square meterage. However, they have been heavily involved in the design document, and that's where the initial price comes from. With these two new clients would fill both the lower floors and the basement. This would leave the council to move its services, including this member suite, to the second and third floors. The council would invest, as people have said already, 5.2 million, present estimated costs, to upgrade this building so it is actually functional for today. We have now meetings that are hybrid, and we need to get this building to a level, because most council buildings have the same issue, where we can have any sort of meeting we want. And so part of this work is to upgrade our facilities on the second and third floors, to put a multi-purpose member suite, series of meeting rooms, but also make them have the ability to have any sort of meeting we need at the present time. There will be communal space as well, which can be used by anyone. The present specification of works we've done also includes the move of the library here, and the County Council have had input into those initial specifications, although obviously the final view will be pending any consultation. The works will be funded from capital receipts as set out in the document. However, as I started with, this will lead to an over £400,000 to £500,000 savings for the council. In fact, it's going to be more than that, because if the two clients sign, and we're in advanced stages with both, with the way energy prices are going up at the moment, we get rid of another significant risk for the council. And just going back to the green agenda for a second, we installed heat pumps here a year ago. This will be the first winter we're using the new cost-effective systems. Should the library move, as we've said, it facilitates then the other works, but that is based on the requirement of the full consultation run by the County Council. If the County Council do not move the library, we will still need to do the work to this building to make it a community hub, because we have 2.5 floors we are not using. We need to put them in a way that someone else will be able to use. Government requirements for councils of whatever colour for the last 20 years has been to move to community or public sector hubs, whatever you want to call it. We were facilitating that. As has been talked about probably most of the evening, the biggest risk we have is timing. We have a process where we need to do moves in this building to facilitate the move, should the library consultation be successful, and do the works on the library site by the 1st of April 2026. And so a timeline, as we talked about earlier, is being developed through the different sets of consultants on both sides to ensure that happens. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation, and thank you for the report. If I can kick off with a couple of questions, it is only a couple, as opposed to the last is a small report, but less questions. The cost for the town hall refurbishment, the building of the new hub, including the library, as we know, is 5.2 million, funded by the sale of assets, as indicated in the report, to gain capital receipts. The report is not specific on what those assets are, or the estimated value of the capital receipt. As I understand, we may need to go into confidential session, hopefully not, but it said Easmore Road, I'm assuming that's community house, but it doesn't give an asset or hopeful capital receipt value. It says Farmore Lane. Now, knowing what I know, is probably, you can correct me if I'm wrong, some land opposite or near the garage down in Green Yates Green, and it says Red Heath. The only thing I can think of it might be is the Upper Norgrove site. So I'm not sure if you can confirm those or give us any estimated capital receipt for those 3 sites. Hopefully in public, if not in private session.
Chair, I'll let Claire Felton talk about the 3 sites, but I will give the number to keep this in a public session. I've given the range of those 3 capital receipts between 3.45 and 5.65 million. We have our property consultant saddled looking at all these at the moment, and I'll pass over to Claire now. And that range is so we haven't got individual buildings which are then prejudicing so.
Claire?
Through you, Chair. Yes, the sites are the ones that you've identified, and all three have been through executive as public reports through time and have sought and achieved member approval. But as Peter says, in respect of the respective values, that will be a matter for the council to achieve best value when it reaches the point at which the sale is agreed.
Thank you. My second question is, what are the hub running costs for the new proposed library facility at the town hall, and who will be funding that?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. At the moment, the assessment is the same costs as a base. We will not know the full costs until the design and we know the final price. However, the two clients we are in advanced negotiations will have partition space, so they will be responsible for their own NNDR and their own utilities and have a portion of the soft and hard end.
So what you're saying is the running costs will be approximately the same in the new library proposal to the town hall, and the county will be meeting those costs?
What I'm saying is, through you, Jeff, what I'm saying is, at the moment, in the base assumptions you have in this document, we're saying the overall cost of running this building are £878k a year. We're saying half those costs will go away because we are leasing out half the building. In fact, it's going to be a lot more than that because we know utilities are going up by significant amounts. And so by leasing the building out to other clients, we are de-risking ourselves of those costs.
Now, I think you made up. The question I'm asking is, what are the running costs for the new proposed library?
Until we've actually done the design, I can't tell you that. However, the county council are happy for business rates, utilities, and the other costs.
Thank you. I'd like to move a recommendation before I call the speakers. And the recommendation reads, O&S, having considered the report, advises the executive not to proceed with the project as currently described in the report, which includes a provision of a library. Instead, it advises a further report for repurposing the town hall, upgrade town hall hub for community use as described in the report, but without the library. So I'm saying I am agreeing we need other public utilities in here, but I'm saying I don't want the library to be part of that. So repurpose a report to have a community hub, but not a provision. That's my recommendation, which I'm moving.
Can I just come back on that, Chair? Sorry,
yes.
Just a comment. Just a comment. I talked about timelines and the importance of timelines earlier. To deliver both projects within the timelines and not have to pay any 4.2 million for consultation is successful, we need to move through the pre-planning processes now because the timelines are tight. So I would just say that.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but as of the previous debate, I didn't want to demolish the library, but I want the community hub and I want us to sell the space and get the income, but not the library. So I'm being logical between 5 and 6. That's what I propose to move. I'm seeking a seconder and any other questions. Councillor Baker was the first hand I saw.
I will second that, and I've got a comment, but I don't think there are any questions, but you say, you know, even if the library doesn't come here, it still has to be developed and remodelled to follow the government guidelines of what the town hall says. So I think Bill's motion is a good recommendation. I'm hugely in favour of this town hall becoming a community hub. I think it you know, to bring some vibrance to it and to bring some rent to it and to help with the running costs of the council is great. It's a great idea, and I'm in total agreement with developing it. mainly without library provision being here, but hey ho, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But what worries me, and I think I've been hanging out with Bill too long with this because I'm always thinking things in my head. If we don't sell the assets that we're thinking we're going to get, and we're £2 million short, because you said between 3 and 5 million, where do we get that money from? What assets are we going to sell? What services are we going to pay for it? Because money doesn't grow on trees. Unless you're the Prime Minister and there's a money tree in the garden, but you know.
Oh, that's naughty, eh? We shouldn't start that, If you want to debate on that, we'll have one. No, we started, Mr. Chairman.
And you're interrupted.
Yeah, you're right, because if we carry on like this.
Did I say any Prime Minister? Right,
Let's on the president, Joe.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Let's on the
Thank
president.
Through you, Chair. In the report, we're quite clear that we talk about these 3 capital receipts and timing difficulties that there always is sometimes with sales. In the monetary report that went to Cabinet, to Executive last month, sorry about that.
Everyone says it.
Apologies. We took an asset disposal strategy, which comes to Council every 6 months. One of the issues the Council has to look at its overall stock at the moment, is because by 26, anything we lease out has to be A, B or C in energy efficiency. We have to assess those buildings now, and if they're not viable going forward, we need to dispose of them, because we don't want to be in that position in 24-25.
So following on from my question. Following on from my questioning, so it's going to kind of be a domino effect of our assets on our building. If we can't sell it, we've just got to keep selling and selling and selling until we get the money.
I wouldn't say that, because we are rationalising our asset base at the moment, and for a number of our assets it will probably become quite apparent that we need to dispose of them anyway. We need to do a rationalisation now, because in the future it's not going to be deliverable, and we will get far less in terms of receipts.
That kind of concerns me, Pete, because I know that this asset disposal thing is coming to the executive and to the council. We're not here to talk about disposals of assets, but say for instance, if say Battery Support or the Sandycroft were in their buildings that we currently own, their assets, and they could be fundraising to get the buildings ready for being energy efficient. If we're saying we can't sell those 3 properties for the money that we want, they're in danger of being sold off because it's a bit premature before the 2026 deadline of these energy efficiency regulations.
Future, we're working with our property consultants, Savills, to make all these assessments at the moment. The 3 items that I've listed are in advanced stages, and we talked about one in this committee already. The other 2 have been in discussions now for the last year and a half.
You're not answering the question. So what happens if we don't sell it? So what happens if we don't sell it for the money that we need? Is it like
so to me, I've said in the report, in the short term, if we have a shortfall, we have to take out short-term debts. However, we will need other capital receipts to manage it, because in reality, the bigger issue for us is balancing the overall budget.
Before a call fair is indicated, can you confirm, Councillor Blake, if you seconded the recommendation?
I did.
Just want to confirm. There.
I'm guessing that's me now. I didn't hear actually, Chair, whether you were calling me or not.
Yes.
Okay. Just to give members some comfort through you, Chair, Peter's absolutely right. The advanced discussions that we've had with Savills have been going on for some time now, and as members know that they provide us with the intelligence that we need from a market perspective. Now, You can never say absolutely what the market will do from one moment to the next, but the reason why a range of figures has been given is to give some ability for there to be some thresholds and some boundaries within that. So we've got maximum and minimum figures that will enable us to achieve best value, and we're working with consultants to enable that to happen. But Peter's absolutely right. In an environment where we don't believe that those capital receipts can be achieved at those maximum values on time, we will pull out and we will rely on short-term borrowing until the market improves and enables us to achieve that. And in the context that Councillor Baker has described with the other assets, when the asset strategy comes before members, there's a number of criteria that will be considered in that space, not just the pound, shillings and pence, as it were, but we have a strategy now, and we'll be bringing that to members for consideration, where we will look at individual properties to enable that assessment to be made. But community value is obviously very important and paramount to all members, as it always has been and always will be.
Have got any more questions? Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Chair. I think I must be one of the saddest people in this town at the moment. I go back and I do remember that this was going to be a vibrant town of 100,000 people. We were going to need the whole of this building and the top 2 or 3 floors of Threadneedle House across the way for the staff to run that town. And we're getting down to the point now where we're going to have, all we actually need is a couple of floors. And I wonder, we wonder why we spent so much time and effort actually developing both those 2 buildings. However, I do have to be sort of sensible about the way we're going. I anticipate that we will develop the way we want to go and the way that the report suggests we should go. And therefore, once more, Chair, I have to say I'm sorry, but I can't support your motion. The fact that you have taken away from the report a major part of it, to my mind, just makes the whole report worthless. I think we should perhaps look at it the other way around and say, yeah, okay, from a personal point of view, somebody who actually sat for hours getting which room in this building didn't have carpets and which wasn't. The chief exec room wasn't going to have carpets, by the way. I think we need a motion. I think we said, something to the effect that we will ask the executive to resolve the items that they've got here, and we make that recommendation. And I'll if and when your motion is either, if it's carried, we'll leave it. If it's not carried, I'll move my motion to that effect.
You're giving notice?
I'll give notice of the motion. Thank you.
Councillor
I'm very sad about the whole building.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we look at this report, I think it doesn't make sense if we don't do a community hub. Because to turn down roughly £400,000 in cost to this building by not putting other services into it, I think it's a dereliction of duty as councillors, which I heard tonight now, because how can we justify that to the residents of Redditch that we're going to turn down nearly £500,000 a year for the next X number of years? I think he's totally wrong, and I could not justify that. It doesn't matter how you look at it, and we talked about the figures earlier on. You couldn't stack those figures up. It's just impossible. So to turn it down, I think is a dereliction of our duty as councillors, because what we're there for is to make the town, and Councillor Short has mentioned a couple of times tonight, about making the town and the Redditch vibrant because we are changing, we've changed since 1960, before I came there, and it's changed since I've been there, and I've been there over 40 odd years. But the point about it is, you see, this is the point to the way that working. COVID changed everything, I believe, not in this country, but throughout the world. And when you look at it, right, because how many of us now go to various meetings on Teams, Skype, and you can see it's not only here in Redditch, but also all over the country, the office box, which are not there at the moment. The office box I go to is exactly the same, because I'm still working. Because I'm just saying, the point about it is you don't see as many people in there as you used to before COVID. And that's how we've changed. And it doesn't matter if you drive on the roads, you don't see as many cars in the morning at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning what they used to be, just 3 years ago. And that's how it changed. And we need to change with it. But this council, again's been mentioned about assets and so on. I've been on this council for over nearly 30 years as a councillor. And when you look at it, we have sold off over the years various pieces of land which have been either given to us or we inherited, from the Development Corporation and the New Towns Commission. And we've been selling the assets off. If you look at this building where we are now, this town hall now, Threadneedle House was built at the same time. And the reason for that was because that would pay for this particular building. That building now has been sold off and it's turned into flats, right? And you've got to look at this. This is now for to be a community club makes more sense, and that's how we're changing now. We can't stand still anymore. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. You have to look forward. And I know Councillor Shaw said about a proposal, but I will put one as well, because I think I'm going to put an amendment to your proposal. And I would say, this committee agrees that Town Hall is designated as a community club. I so
I think you may have misunderstood my motion. My motion isn't against the community hall, it's for a community hall, it's for selling and renting out part of the town hall because it's underutilised. It's just a reduced community hall without the library, which will reduce the 5.2 million which we need. It's asked for a repurposed town hall report to be resubmitted. So I'm not against that, so you may have misunderstood that.
Well, can I just say, I don't think I did misunderstood, because if you take the library out of this equation, as you call it, of moving into the community hall, we're talking of hundreds of thousands of pounds, which is not going to come into this council, and therefore it's going to cost the council taxpayers of Redditch extra of thousands of pounds to pay for this, because if we've got a shortfall, somebody's going to pay for it, and it's us, every one of us in this particular room who live in Redditch, who's going to have to pay through the council tax another £200,000 to make up the shortfall. So it is directly against what you're saying.
So your proposal is to have two buildings run simultaneously. You don't want to move the library into the community hall, that's just the town hall.
Yes.
The argument earlier regarding the library was you're going to demolish it and it's been highlighted now that we're going to get greater square footage for the library if it moves into the town hall. So aren't you contradicting what you argued before, why you don't want the library demolished or moved? And I've only been a councillor for about a year, and it seems to me it's a bit tedious that you're putting hurdles in front of motions that you're trying to improve everything and make the town self-sufficient and funded. And we've got the funds there, we've got the assets there. Rather than utilise it, all I've been hearing from my residents, and yeah, you mentioned there's been 2,000 resident petition, but there's over 80,000 residents in Redditch. So all I've been hearing, and the scaremongering, the library is going to be demolished, libraries is going to be gone, and what we've found out now is the library is going to have greater square footage if it moves here, and it will be funded by county, and you're still objecting to it. So there's no logic in rather, I think you're just fishing for, I don't know, pointers or whatever you're trying to do. You're trying to appease and certain people, and you're misleading the general public, and you keep putting hurdles in front of perfectly well motives. And like the fellow councillors mentioned, even officers have said this is initial process so we can present our business plan for it to go into consultation where the public will have a say and the officers will have. It's not a done deal sign that certain councillors have mentioned, certain people have doing it and it's done and that's it. It's so you vote and it goes into consultation and everyone gets a fair say. So why are you not agreeing with it?
I'll respond at the end when I sum up. So I've taken into account of your remarks. And when I sum up on my motion, I'll respond to the points you raised. Next one is Councillor Court.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, I'm very happy to hear that you are, in principle, in favour of a community hub, because I'm very much in favour of one, and I think it's actually a really, really great idea. It's a good use of assets with Town Hall. It's a landmark in Redditch. It's important. Mike's given some good history. I think make some good comments, but we need to move forward and use it sensibly. So I hope that we're more or less all on the same page that we need a community hub, and it's a great idea, and that's what it's trying to. But the problem I've got, and I think this is where our agreement unfortunately diverges, as it may always do, is that you can't have a community hub without the library. It doesn't work. So Councillor Harvey, I think quite rightfully pointed out how much of an important community asset the library is. She quoted the footfall figures, I think it's 400 a day, and that's quite a lot over the course of a month or a year. And I think other people made some quite passionate points about what the library means to them in the public speaking section and why it's a big part of their experience in Redditch and how it's actually in some small way changed their life. So the idea that you have what is actually, and I think we all agree, a really important community asset away from the community hub, and don't mention there's also DWP in there, that person would also be moving into the town hall. I think you are failing the community hub before it even exists. You are taking the community out of the community hub and then trying to claim it would go and change. And I mean, as for the economics, it also wouldn't work. Well, you've got, as I imagine, you've got people wanting to move into this building because there will be a library there, because of that footfall, because maybe public services want to work with people, like TWB, who already use the library. So on the one hand, you're removing community, but on the other hand, you're removing people who would want to move into this building because the community is going to be here. So on the economics, you're removing people who want to move to this building. There's no money, so that 400k, which will be vital for our budget, is going to go. And you move the people themselves. So I don't understand how this makes sense. You can't have a community hub without a community. And without the library, you won't bring the community here. So with that, I want to close my remarks.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Baker for a second time and then Councillor Harvey for a first time.
Thank you, Chair. I like debate, it's good. Don't fall back from, I actually agree with what you're saying. On most part, I think, it is important that the town moves forward and the town moves with the times. I think COVID has changed a lot of how we do business and how we do operate as a council. And I think, I got quoted figures that there was nearly over 500 people used to work in the town hall many moons ago, and that's now gone to. Shall I just pause while they? I think those online have got bored. Yeah. Isn't it great when you can just turn off, isn't it? So, coming back to my chain of thought, we have changed the way we do business, and going from a town that had over when I was first elected, it was 500 people who used to work in the town hall, and it was a very vibrant town hall, and we've got about 60 people now working in and around the different departments, so we do have to change. And I agree with Councillor Clayton and Councillor Chalk that we do have to move with the times. I disagree with Councillor Court. I don't think to have a community hub you need a library in it. I think a community hub is a combination of different businesses, different organisations, different facilities. So, you know, community hub doesn't really need a library in it. Councillor Aftaf, I think. Sorry, we will get it right. I do feel we're kind of missing the point here. We're here to scrutinise what's going to the executive and to act as a friend to the executive, as a critical friend. We give recommendations, we give advice, we give our opinions and opinions of the public. It's not about defending the executive. Your position here is to scrutinise, and that's what we're doing. We're scrutinising. We don't always have to agree with what's on here. Some things we do, some things we don't. But it's not a personal or attack on anybody in particular. We're here to put recommendations, and if O&S puts a recommendation and it gets voted out, that's fine. That's what we're here for. We're here as a democracy. I keep hearing that there's been misleading information of just demolishing the library. I don't think I've heard anything saying about the library being demolished. I've heard the library building being demolished. I think we're all aware that, you know, the reports aren't saying that the library's going. You know, the library services will stay wherever it is, whether it's in the existing building or in the new hub. It's the building being demolished, I think, what was going around and what people were more concerned about. So I think let's scrutinise, let's have the debate, and I think I'm clear that what Bill says is that we're all for a hub, but we just want a report that doesn't involve the library being here.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just getting a bit confused here. So we just read the entire bit of agenda at item 5 saying, oh, the town deal's all subject to Worcester County Council agreeing to move the library. It's all subject to that, it's all subject to consultation. And now we've got Councillor Court basically saying you have to move the library here to save the town hall. So we're kind of at odds here. I'm not against the hub. It's clear that this building needs a new use. It's being underused, and it's clear that we need to refresh it. I'm agreeing with Councillor Hartnett though. What other options have been considered? So if Worcester County Council do not agree to move the library to this building, what are the other options on the table? That's what Councillor Hartnett's asking for.
Through you, Chair, other options for the building, we would look at redesign, so that's why we're looking at pre-planning the present one. If that wasn't to happen, all of the timescales change. And we would look at other options, but we will still be looking at other clients on ground, basement and 1.
Yeah.
And we've also got someone interested in 4. So, you know, we've got people who are interested. But this is a large space.
Okay, so we're confirming that the library need is not a deciding factor. We're saying we're having a community hub is what we need to do to save the council money, but the library itself is not the deciding factor.
I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that, because at the moment we're in negotiations with 2 potential clients. One of those is the county council, and part of that arrangement, pending any consultation, is the movement of the library in here. And that space has been accounted for.
You finished?
No, sorry, I'm just going to ask one more thing.
Yeah.
It's about the £5.2 million. There's not very much detail in this report, and I understand because it's in its initial stages. But how does that figure stack up with inflation? There's no mention of inflation on here. Now, previously in agenda time, we've been talking at 6%, which I think seems at 10% at the moment. How likely is inflation going to affect those sort of figures which you put through to us today?
The draft figures we have at the moment have £1 million of contingency.
Thank you, Chair. I'll close my question.
Thank you. Councillor Court.
Thank you. I'll just be very quick and just respond to a few comments. Councillor Baker suggested that we should be here to scrutinise, and I completely agree, that's why I'm here tonight. But scrutiny and debate doesn't necessarily mean supporting the motion the chair's tabled. And to Councillor Harvey, I think Mr. Carpenter partly answered what I was saying, but the library would be a big draw for people to move into this building. As you stated, with how many people will be here. So to say that would be completely inconsequential to any businesses or not decision to move here or public services doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And finally, just on the point of supporting community assets in general, may I just point to the council's finances and say that we do a lot of things for different community groups in Redditch, and if we had several £100,000 a year to find, we would be happy to do less of those things. But that's not a political comment, that is merely a statement of accounting. So to protect the community, we really do need to get this funding from the library, which is needed. Thank you.
Matt.
Thank you. We've spoken a lot tonight about inflation and costs going up in general. It's not just this building that we have to think about that as well, because the county council are in exactly the same problem. So we've said as well, I think somebody mentioned that DWP would be moving in here. DWP are currently in the library. With DWP moving in here, that possibly poses a question. And with inflation and increased electric costs and everything else, this move secures the library in Redditch Town Centre for a very, very long time. And that's all I'll say, because that's what we need to think about. The library's secure if it comes here.
Okay, thank you. I've got no more speakers. I'll sum up on my recommendation. We'll take the vote and then notice it falls some other motions. So, just to respond to one or two of the points that were raised by the speaker, I'll be consistent. I don't want the library to be demolished, so I don't want to spend 4.2 million quid. Therefore, we don't need a library hub here. But I do want a hub here. 3 or 4 meetings ago, we discussed letting out half of the ground floor and half of the first floor. I think it was NHS. And I'm very pleased to hear that other interest in floor 4. I'm all for that. I just don't want to spend £4.2 million knocking down the building, to spend £5.2 million, a portion of which is to build a library, to replace a library 100 yards up the road, costing £9.4 million. The point of my resolution is, or motion is, not to proceed as planned, but to proceed with a hub without the library. That's all my motion is. So I'll just take the votes on the recommendation I moved. Those in favour, will you please indicate?
Is it coming in your vote?
No, it doesn't have to.
I thought Joe would be consistent, so I want to show. That was good.
3, those against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It falls. You give notice, Councillor George.
Yeah, it's basically to recommend to the executive they accept the report as printed.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
I'll second it.
Any debate? No? Ready to vote? Those in favour of the recommendations on page 113. And did it go over? No, on 113 there are 4 recommendations. Those in favour, would you please indicate? One, two, three, four, 5 votes against. 3. It is carried. That concludes agenda item number 6. Thank you very much. We now go on to agenda item number 7, which I think is partially in the original report and partially in the additional papers. So if you go back to your original report and go to page 111, is it, I think? Which is the executive minutes of the 6th of September. They're normally just a noting. Are you prepared to note those minutes of the 6th of September?
Move it, Chair. Second, Chair.
If you move and second to note those. All those in favour? That's great. The second half of agenda item number 7, go back to the additional papers and go to page, he says flipping over the pages, 129, which is the executive work programme, and I think there aren't any updates on this. Some of the dates may have changed, but basically it's all the same. The appropriation of land off Ipswich Church Lane is in 8th of December, the special O&S. We've got that date fixed, which may be news. But apart from that, it's as printed, and the Environment Act changes, it is going to be in June next year. There's no June definition. So anyone got any comments on additional papers 7, the Executive Work Programme? Noted. You all indicate. Thank you very much. The next agenda item then is agenda item number 8 on page 139 in the additional papers agenda. You've got the regular items listed there, and then we've got the work programme, and I think it's all up to date, and there's nothing additional to add to that. Does anyone wish to make any comment on the additional, on the work programme O&S? Or can you just note that? If you wish to note, could you please indicate? That's all of you, thank you very much. That therefore, I believe, concludes this evening's meeting. I thank you all for your presence and for a very good debate, and for the public questioners and the public who stayed to the end. Thank you all very much. Stay tuned home.
Well, that's the end of the meeting this evening. We heard quite a big debate, for and against the demolition of the library, for and against the moving of the library to the town hub. Obviously you can take what you can from the debate. The next stages are that this will go to the County Council on the 27th of August. But while we're here, I've got Councillor Sharon Harvey with me, who spoke out this evening. Sharon, what did you make of this evening's meeting?
It's very hard not to consider it as a bit of a done deal, because we're kind of doing that cart before the horse thing again. So a community hub, it's not a terrible idea. We need to save some money for council, but it seems to be all hinging on having to have the library here. In fact, Councillor Dord basically threatened the people of the library if we did not get it into the town hall. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's what he's here to do. We should be protecting library services, and ideally for me, I want to protect them in their current location.
Lovely. And as far as the next stage of consultation is concerned, I think you made the point that there were 2,000 signatures on the petition, which when you compared it against the formal consultation, the numbers didn't stack up. What will you be looking for from the council?
I want to see a consultation where there are actually options, because I think Redditch has got a history of being given consultations where there's no choice in the matter. So I don't want to see a consultation which is, this is what you're going to get. I want a consultation on what do you want, and I think that will be really important.
We heard earlier from Councillor David Zane from the Green Party, who's concerned concerned about the environmental problems of demolishing buildings and reconstruction. What's your view on that as a member of the Climate Change Committee?
Yeah, I have to agree with Councillor Thane there. It's like longevity is key. There's lots of factors to consider. There's loads of solar panels on top of the existing library. Taking those down comes at a huge cost, and we'll be replicating those on the new building which is proposed. It's smaller, so we probably can't fit all of them on there, if any. And I think we're looking at demolition. We're not looking at the cost of materials, power, all of those things. We don't have to spend that money on demolishing. We don't have to spend that carbon change.
Okay, so what's the next step then in the campaign?
Well, the next thing which happens is obviously executive on Tuesday. That's when the executive are going to decide whether to vote this through. I wouldn't like to assume that's going to happen, but there's only Conservative councillors on the executive to speak about that. And then we're waiting for the report to go to county council, and they have to make their own recommendations there.
Okay, so the campaign continues?
Absolutely, because I think we saw from the public speakers tonight that the public are very much against demolishing the library. None of those speakers came to say that they wanted the library to be demolished, and I think that's really a key point here.
Sharon, thanks very much for your time this evening. Well, that's it from us and the live stream from Redditch Labour Party. We'll keep you in touch with all the things that are going on, and hopefully we can bring you some further news from live streams from further meetings. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.